The movie kicks off with a girl clearly on the run, injured and terrified. She's clutching a gun and a bag stuffed with money, constantly glancing at it as if it's both her lifeline and her curse. After some tense driving, her car suddenly gets a flat tire. With no other choice, she starts walking forward, carrying the bag and her gun. But before she can get far, a car comes speeding from behind and hits her, instantly killing her. Inside that car are 4 friends, on their way to a cabin for a hunting trip. Shocked and panicked, they get out of the car, unsure of what just happened or what they should do next. Then Paul's eyes catch sight of the bag lying near the girl's body. Greed takes over immediately. "This is our chance," he tells his friends, thinking this money could change their lives. But the others are frozen in fear, staring at the dead girl. John, trying to reason, says they should take the money to the police. Paul shoots that down, warning them the police will take this money and pin the murder on us. Is that what you want? John can feel something isn't right here, but he doesn't yet know how deep the trouble will go. But the other 2 friends quickly side with Paul. Part of it is fear they don't want to end up in jail, but greed is also starting to creep in. The thought of all that money tempting them to change their lives is too strong to ignore. One of them nervously asks Paul, "What do we do with the body now?" Paul calmly lays out his plan. "We'll take it to the cabin, bury her somewhere in the forest, then split the money and pretend none of this ever happened." They carefully place the girl's body and the bag of money into their car, ready to leave. But just as they're about to drive off, a police car pulls up, looking coincidentally for the same girl. Paul tells everyone to stay calm, making sure none of them raise suspicion. The officer first examines the girl's abandoned car, then turns his attention to the 4 friends, starting to question them. Paul quickly responds, "We didn't see any girl. Our car just stopped suddenly on the road, so we stopped to fix it." The officer narrows his eyes. "Your car looks brand new. How could it just break down?" Paul shrugs, keeping his cool. "Honestly, we don't know. It just stopped all of a sudden as we were passing by." The officer nods slowly. "All right, but let me take a look at it anyway." Paul suddenly panics, realizing the officer might see the dead body inside the car. In a desperate move, he grabs the girl's gun and points it straight at the policeman. The other friends freeze in terror. Both the officer and one friend shout at him to put the gun down, but Paul doesn't listen. He fires and kills the officer instantly. The other friends can hardly believe what just happened. Shocked and scared, one of them whispers, "Now, we need to figure out what to do next." Paul, still thinking fast, comes up with a plan. "We'll leave the officer's body here. When the police find him, they'll think the girl did it and ran away. With that, they get back in the car and drive to the cabin. When they arrive, the place is completely deserted, surrounded by dense forest. John, still reeling from everything, doesn't say a word. He's too upset to even speak. Meanwhile, the other 2 friends start digging a pit to bury the officer's body, while Paul pulls out the money, counting it carefully. Ready to divide it among the 4 of them, at that tense moment, John calls his wife. She scolds him over the phone. "I've been trying to reach you all morning, but you didn't answer a single call." John tries to calm things down, telling his wife over the phone, "I'm fine. Don't worry, I'll be home soon after the hunt." Meanwhile, at the scene where the girl's car was abandoned, another man named Sidney arrives. He peers inside the car, but finds nothing. Then his eyes fall on the bloodstains on the ground, and suddenly, he knows exactly where he needs to go. Without wasting a moment, he drives straight to the cabin, where the 4 friends are busy burying the dead body. The moment Sidney arrives, all 4 friends are stunned. Paul instinctively points his gun at him. "Who are you?" he demands. Sidney, calm and collected, replies, "You have a bag that belongs to me. Hand it over and I'll let you all walk away." The friends are shocked. How did this man even find them? Paul orders one of his friends to search Sidney, but he's unarmed. Sidney repeats, "Just give me my bag and I'll leave. No one else needs to get hurt." Paul, suspicious and tense, asks, "How did you even reach here? Does anyone else know about us?" Sidney leans in, his voice chillingly calm. "I don't know about anyone else, but I know everything about you. Sydney remains unnervingly calm. "There's more I know than just about you," he says quietly. "That's why I'm telling you. Just hand me my bag and I'll leave quietly. No one has to get hurt." The four friends are baffled. How can he be so composed? He's not angry, he's not panicking, and he's not threatening them yet somehow. His presence is terrifying. Suddenly, strange noises come from the forest surrounding the cabin. Panic spikes Paul, and the others think Sydney might have backup lying in wait. John and one friend grab their guns and cautiously step into the forest to investigate. Paul, still suspicious, turns to Sydney. "How many men do you have out there?" Sydney shakes his head calmly. "I came alone." Paul doesn't believe him. He drags Sydney down to the basement and ties him up, still wary of any tricks. Meanwhile, in the forest, John and his friends stumble across some animal traps. As they inspect them, they notice a man approaching. Seeing guns aimed at him, the man panics and tries to run, but John and his friend are faster. They catch him and bring him back to the cabin. Paul, furious, demands, "Where are your other companions?" The man, trembling and on the verge of tears, can only stammer, "I don't know what you're talking about." The terrified man pleads for his life. "My house is nearby. Please let me go back to my wife and daughter. I've done nothing wrong." His voice is shaking, and it's obvious he's telling the truth. John looks at him and says, "Just look at his condition. I don't think he knows anything at all." But Paul has already made up his mind. "He's seen us," he says coldly. "If he goes to the police, all four of us will end up in jail. We have no choice but to kill him." This time, Paul refuses to pull the trigger himself. He turns to John's friend and says, "You'll have to do it." Reluctantly, John's friend steps forward. The man continues begging for his life, and John's friend just can't bring himself to shoot. That's when Paul raises his gun and points it at him, forcing him to act. Left with no choice, John's friend finally fires the shot, killing the man on the spot. The moment it happens, he goes into shock, completely broken by what he's just done. As John begins the grim task of disposing of the bodies, Paul returns to Sydney in the basement. Looking straight at him, Sydney says, "You killed an innocent man, even though you knew he was innocent." Then he adds something even more disturbing. "You're starting to enjoy this. You're not doing this to survive anymore. You're getting used to hunting people." Sydney's words hit hard. He says it's become like an addiction for Paul. Hearing this, Paul is visibly shaken, clearly disturbed by what he's just been accused of. When John walks back inside, Sydney looks at all of them and says firmly, "I'm telling you for the last time. Give me my money back, and I'll leave this place quietly," one of Paul's friends hesitantly suggests. "If we give him a share of the money, maybe this can end peacefully." But Paul immediately rejects the idea. Sydney calmly responds, "I don't want to share. Either I take all of it, or I take nothing." That's when Paul snaps and presses the gun against Sydney's head. Even then, Sydney doesn't panic. In a low, chilling voice, he says, "You can't kill me. And by the way, why don't you tell your friends about California?" Those words completely stun Paul. Shocked, he demands, "How do you know about that?" John turns to him, confused. "What happened in California?" At first, Paul tries to avoid the question, but eventually he gives in and starts explaining. "Last year, I went to California on a business trip. I met a girl there. She came with me willingly. But the next morning, everything changed." He continues, "She started threatening me. She said if I didn't give her the money she demanded, she'd go to the police and accuse me of raping her." Paul finally admits what really happened. After a long argument, he killed the girl in a fit of rage. Then, to cover it up, he chopped up her body and disposed of it. This revelation makes one thing clear. Paul had already committed murder before all of this began. Hearing this, his friends are completely shaken. They can't believe Paul is capable of something so horrific. Paul tries to justify himself, saying, "I panicked. I did all of it to save my own life." Meanwhile, John's friend, overwhelmed with anger and guilt, storms down to the basement. He points a gun at Paul and shouts, "Because of you, I killed an innocent man, and now I have to live with that regret." Paul coldly reminds him, "You were the one who stepped forward. You chose to do it." Those words leave John's friend stunned. Taking advantage of the moment, Paul suddenly snatches the gun from him, turns it back on him, and brutally beats him. John and the other friend rush in, trying to stop Paul, but he refuses to back down. Finally, one of Paul's friends strikes him on the head with the gun, knocking him unconscious. When Paul wakes up, he realizes he's tied up in the basement right next to Sydney. Upstairs, John and Paul's friend are quietly discussing the money. John says we should hide the bag somewhere in the forest until we figure out what to do. Ever since this money entered our lives, we've lost our humanity. Down in the basement, Sydney starts manipulating Paul. He tells him, "Your friends have taken the money and left. It looks like they're planning everything without you." Fueled by anger, Paul breaks free and storms after John. But before he can do anything, John's friend shoots him. Paul collapses to the ground, and they assume he's dead, overwhelmed with guilt. John's friend heads back to the basement and breaks down in tears. Sydney looks at him coldly and says, "What's the point of crying now? You didn't want to kill that man, yet you did. And now, you've shot your own friend. Do you really think crying will erase your crimes?" Meanwhile, John is in the forest. He spots a hollow tree and carefully hides the bag of money inside it. A little later, Paul suddenly opens his eyes. He quickly crawls and hides behind a tree. The bullet had only hit his shoulder. He survived. In that moment, he realizes the truth. His friends have turned against him. Back in the basement, Sydney quietly asks John's friend, "Do you trust John?" The man quickly replies, "Yes. Yes, I trust him." Sydney continues, "You're thinking this money will fix your life, aren't you? But let me tell you, this money has never brought good to anyone." Hearing Sydney's words, the friend angrily tells him to stay quiet. Sydney then calmly says, "Give me my money, and I'll let you walk away alive." But the man fails to understand what Sydney is really trying to warn him about. Meanwhile, as John is heading back toward the cabin, Paul suddenly appears in front of him, aiming a gun straight at him. "Take me to the bag," Paul growls, "or I'll shoot you." John slowly throws his gun to the ground. Exhausted and broken, he says, "I'm tired of all this. If you want the money, I'll take you to it." But along the way, John cleverly leads Paul toward the area where animal traps are set. Suddenly, Paul's leg snaps into one of the traps. He screams in agony, begging for help. Instead of helping him, John picks up his gun and runs away. Leaving Paul behind, John rushes back to the cabin and tells the others everything that just happened. Hearing this, one of the friends says, "Paul is still our friend. We can't just leave him there to die." Sydney steps in and says, "You still have a chance. Give me my money." When Paul's friend starts threatening Sydney again, Sydney calmly responds, "I know everything about you. How you're betraying your friends." Before Sydney can say anything else, Paul's friend suddenly shoots him in the head. The moment the gun fires, a strange, piercing sound fills the air. All of them start screaming in agony as the sound becomes unbearable, stabbing painfully into their ears. After some time, John and his friends reach the spot where he had hidden the money. Unbeknownst to them, Paul is silently following, keeping a close eye on their every move. Along the way, he picks up John's abandoned gun and tucks it away, preparing for what's coming. As they move forward, John turns to Paul's friend, suspicion in his eyes. "Are you hiding something from me?" he asks. Paul's friend hesitates, then admits, "Yes. And forgive me, but I've been involved with your wife." John is completely shocked. Anger flashes across his face. "I did so much for you, and all this time you two were betraying me together? How could you keep this from me?" In a rage, John points his gun at his friend's head, but he doesn't fire. Instead, he declares, "We'll take the money and leave. But after this, I never want to see your face again." Suddenly, something horrifying happens. Sydney's eyes snap open. He's alive again. It's clear now that he's not human. Meanwhile, the three of them reach the tree where John had hidden the bag. One friend suggests, "Now we should go after Paul." But before they can move, Paul, who had been silently watching them, acts. He shoots the friend on the spot. The man collapses instantly. Paul had been lying in wait, making sure he stayed one step ahead, shocked by what just happened. John and his remaining friend dive behind a tree, trying to stay out of sight. John's friend, still hoping to reason with Paul, shouts, "Paul, you're our friend. We were coming to help you. I'm throwing my gun down, do the same." Paul hesitates. "You come out first," he warns. Despite John's protest, trusting Paul, his friend steps out with the bag of money in his hand. But then everything changes. He catches a glimpse of Sydney standing just behind Paul and freezes in horror. The bag slips from his hands. He can't believe what he's seeing. How is he alive? In the confusion, Paul panics and fires. John's friend falls shot. That leaves only Paul and John alive. Meanwhile, Sydney drags the fallen friend toward a tree. Calmly, almost clinically, he begins extracting blood with a syringe, feeding himself. It's in this moment that the horrifying truth becomes clear. Sydney is not human. He's a vampire. As John's friend counts his last breaths, Sydney leans in and says coldly, "Humans are like dogs. Give a piece of meat and they start fighting among themselves. The only difference here is money," Sydney continues, his voice cold and chilling. "Humans and animals are the same when it comes to greed. Animals chase food. Humans chase money. I threw this money among you, and what happened? You forgot your friendships and your humanity." It becomes clear that Sydney has been testing them all along, and he's been doing it for years, carefully observing how greed corrupts people. Meanwhile, John cautiously peeks out from his hiding spot, only for Paul to fire at him. Paul assumes John is dead, but he isn't. As Paul moves to grab the bag of money, John takes aim and shoots him, killing Paul instantly. But John is barely holding on. He's badly injured and on the brink of death. That's when Sydney approaches. Calmly, he makes John drink his blood. "This is a gift from me," Sydney says. "With this, you will become immortal. You will never die," Sydney continues. "You humans are so greedy that you will do anything for your own gain. Now, I am giving you a new life." With that, Sydney disappears, taking the bag of money and the gun with him. The next morning, places the bag inside the girl's car. After a while, we see the girl walking toward the car, hinting at the continuation of this eerie, twisted cycle. And then the shocking truth is revealed: the girl is alive. She didn't die that day, which means she too is immortal. Calmly, she retrieves the bag and begins her work all over, again the same work she had been doing with Sydney for countless years, testing humans, hunting them, and collecting blood for herself. Meanwhile, we see two more people somewhere, stumbling upon a bag full of money. Greed sparks in their eyes almost instantly. It's clear they are about to become Sydney's next victims. And then there's John. He survived the ordeal too. Having drunk Sydney's blood, he, like Sydney and the girl, has become immortal. Now he has joined them in this dark mission, continuing the cycle of greed, temptation, and hunting. So, does the story really end here? Or does this endless cycle of human greed and supernatural hunting continue forever?
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.